Damon Wilson served as the Chief of Staff at the US Embassy in Baghdad between 2006 and 2007. He's now the Executive Vice President of the Atlantic Council in Washington, from where we can join him now. Damon, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the programme. What, for you, are the implications of the ISIS advance that we're seeing in Iraq at the moment?
This is a catastrophe. It has enormous implications for our interests. First, the entire integrity of the Iraqi state is under challenge right now. But from an American perspective, we got into Afghanistan, after all, because of a safe haven of territory where terrorists could operate freely. So even as ISIS has been concentrated on Iraqi targets right now, we have to think about a zone of territory that it controls being used to plot terrorist attacks against the West.
What can America do?
This is a tough spot because fundamentally what we've seen is a failure of political leadership in Baghdad, a failure of Prime Minister Maliki to actually reach out and forge the political compromises between the Kurds, the Sunni, the Shia, that gave the Sunni and Kurds a stake in this Iraqi government. So for the United States, we need to see some movement on the political front. And this either needs to be with Prime Minister Maliki or someone else that the Kurds and Sunnis could strike a power-sharing agreement with. But we do have a role to play. We can provide certain military assistance in helping to advise the Iraqi forces on striking back. We're moving our own assets into the region that we can call upon for military airstrikes, drone strikes, and other such things. But
yeah,
really
that's
here in Washington, I think, raises the question of Syria.
Sure, but with all due respect, I mean, America doesn't want to get back in there, do they? And we've heard John Kerry today saying that talks and negotiations, possibly with Iran, which has got everybody almost thinking that's a comical negotiation step. I mean, are you an advocate of what John Kerry is saying?
You're right. There's not a lot of enthusiasm for the United States to get back in hardcore. The Iran issue is tricky. Even if you might argue that there is some tactical convergence of interest, if you're trying to avoid the escalation, the descent of Iraq into a real fight between Sunni and Shia, Iran entering the fray, and certainly the United States standing by Iran entering the fray, is a way to only further alienate the Sunni population. We have to remember it was Iranian forces, Quds forces that operated in Iraq, that actually attacked coalition forces, actually attacked American forces when I served in Iraq.
You were there between 2006 2007. I think in 2007 alone there were between 22,000 and 30,000 Iraqis that lost their lives in that year alone. From your understanding of the ISIS group and how it operates, what do you understand their end goal to be here?
So this has really evolved. When I served in Baghdad, ISIS, or its predecessor, if you will, was able to mount terrorist attacks, small scale, could have significant impact. What we've seen because of the Syria conflict is that the organization has been able to develop the capacity to man infantry, if you will, actually ground forces, been able to control territory, begun to govern territory, and has gained the resources to be able to fuel this insurgency. So it's a different ball game now, and its threat is far more significant now.
Damon Wilson, we're grateful for your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Damon Wilson there, who served as the Chief of Staff at the US Embassy in Baghdad between 2006 and 2007.